Like we found out he like never showed up for band practice, and like a month later or something, I found out he like robbed like a CVS or something and got caught. You're like, what? We never got that vibe from him.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was the Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000s New Jersey punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Right Turn Eddie was a ska band from the late 90s that was made up of Josh, Pete, Pat, Steve, Big Pat, Shotgun, Metal, and sometimes Johnny Tamillo, who would fill in on drums from time to time. Little fun fact, he's also the frontman of Folly and the younger brother to Pat and Steve. Their sound was reminiscent of the Boss Tones meets Real Big Fish with some punk rock thrown in the mix. As you can tell, I'm not very good at explaining shit like this, so whatever. I used to hang out with Josh a lot back in the day because he used to live in Stockholm, which is right next to Jefferson, and we met through the scene, I believe, but I always looked up to him because he just seemed to have a really solid outlook on life, and he basically owned a house at the age of 17, which I'm sure is a bullshit age, but he was really fucking young and he had his own house, which I was like, that's pretty dope. I reached out to him for this interview and he said that he'd like Steve, who was the bassist, to also join. I agreed, and this is what we talked about. Their van Bruce that they bought from Congress of Cow, their original band name Spaz, the Butler Show with Against All Authority, Johnny Tamillo from Folly, Josh never remembering lyrics at shows, their mysterious Matt, who was kind of like their cheerleader, like the guy who dances at Boston shows but doesn't get paid. Recording with Chris Badami at Portrait Studios. Jim Slim and the Midget Tossers gets a mention. What Congress of Cow actually means, which I think I covered in the Lane Meyer interview episode 6, but fuck it. The Sweet 16 party that we, Congress of Cow, played with them. The Horn Players. How their drummer Steve's dad used to scare the shit out of me when I was younger. And a ton more. This week's episode is sponsored by Southern Tier Distilling Company, again. Building on 300 plus years of Western New York spirit production, Southern Tier Distilling Company puts that heritage into every bottle. Now expanding their market to Jersey, Delaware, and Ohio, more of us can enjoy these premium spirits such as Southern Tier Distilling Company's Straight Bourbon, Silver Medal Award-winning vodka, Smoked Bourbon, and their 2X Hopped Whiskey, a whiskey distilled from their Gold Medal-winning 2X IPA. In addition to their spirits, also available are their premium canned cocktails. Soon to hit the market are the gin and tonic with elderflower and cucumber, the bourbon smash with ginger, mint, and lemon, even though I've said lime the last couple of times, thanks to Rob from LWL and his great writing skills, and the vodka madras with cranberry, orange, and chamomile. Great for camping, the beach, tailgating, and, of course, the golf course. Check out Southern Tier Distilling at stdcspirits.com and follow their Instagram account at southern_tier_NJ. Again, tier is T-I-E-R, not tier like crying. Southern Tier, why the hell not? If anyone actually wants to sponsor this podcast as well, I've got some room, so just send me an email at thiswasthescene@gmail.com so you can get a spot. Thank you to the people who still keep donating to this. If you'd like to do so as well, just go to thiswasthescene.com and there's a big purple button on top that says donate. You can donate whatever you'd like. Yes, there's merchandise on the site as well. There's shirts and I've added stickers. With the stickers, I think I've got like 10 left of this run. So they're $5 a piece and they're like the stickers that don't have the back to them, so they're transparent. I don't know the name of them, but they're pretty cool. So thank you again to Seth Tucker Holster from Local Shirt and Sign, located in New Jersey. You should go check out their Facebook page and give them love by buying some shit from them. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and by leave a review, it just means if you're on iTunes, you can give it a couple stars, hopefully 5, and then you could just type something like, this is really cool, or I like punk rock, or I don't know, something like that. And you can share this with anyone who you think would love some nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. So today, everyone, we have two band members. We've done this a couple times before with Joystick and Boxcar, and we were talking to the boys Steve and Josh, or Josh and Steve from Right Turn Eddie. Hello, everyone.
Oh, Mike. Hello, Michael.
Where are you guys at right now? Are you in Josh's new house?
We are actually, yeah. I just drove up from work. I just took my little guy for a haircut, came up, and I got to say, it's awesome that you're doing this because this is probably the first time me and Josh have seen each other in about maybe 15, 16 years.
Yeah,
Seriously?
Yeah, dude.
It's been a long time.
It's been a really long time.
Well, we had no rift between us. Just life gets busy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. How far do you guys live? Because, Josh, you're in Vernon now?
I'm in Vernon now, and I was still in Stockholm for a long time. But, like, for years, my job traveled me all over the place. And I know Steve's job travels him all over the place and stuff now. And that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, and I'm not far. Yeah, I'm right in Pompton Plains, Pequannock. So,
Okay.
We're not far at all.
Is that where you grew up?
No, I grew up in Bloomingdale, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Josh, I mean, were you still in the house that you always were in?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was the best house.
Yeah, we were just telling my wife about it, how we used to jam in there and stuff, and she lived in there. We had my kid in there, and she was trying to figure all that out. But
That's awesome. But so anyone listening, Right Turn Eddie was one of the ska bands from back in the day, and I used to hang out with these. I used to hang out with Josh. I think a lot. Like you and I used to go, and was that one time we went and tried to surf that one time? Do you remember this?
Yeah. Well, you and me lived very close to. You lived right down in the Berkshire condos, right?
Yeah, I was right in Berkshire Ridge in Jefferson.
Yep. Actually, we bought Bruce. Came from Mike.
Yeah,
we bought that off.
I was going to bring that up later on, or see if Mike brought it up. Yeah,
I was going to ask that. I was
enabled our travel.
Yeah, one of my questions was going to be if you guys toured, and I remember that you bought Bruce from us.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit that was.
We didn't do too much touring, but we did play some shows in other states, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The Adventures Alone and Bruce were fun, actually.
God, I don't think that van, in the wintertime, it was the worst, because I think there was a giant hole somewhere. And there was like one of the engine seals was a little weak, so you'd have to drive with the windows down all the time, or you'd be like passing out.
Yep, I remember that.
And I remember there was a lack of seatbelts in there, and I think we installed like a couch in the side of it or something.
Yeah.
That and three green
chairs,
plastic lawn chairs.
I always remember a lot of people rolling around the back when we'd stop short.
Yeah, that was rough times, man.
Actually, we found that van. Laura Ladishef. Do you remember Laura? She booked Heft and then did a lot of Humble shows for them for a while.
Oh, I'm sure we probably did at some point. Yeah, I just don't remember.
She helped us find that van, and we found it somewhere in Dover, and we bought it for like a couple $100, and we're driving it back to Barker's house in like a pack-on, and I remember we didn't have license plates for it, and we're like, we can't drive this thing to his house. If we get pulled over, we're fucked. And she's like, don't worry about it. We're like, no, like we didn't even have insurance on it. We just got on the road and drove it down Route 15, freaking out the whole time we were going to get arrested or something to get it home. It's like, we're such fucking idiots. All right, so I'm going to start this off. I know you guys, you said there's like a structure. There is a structure. And what this is we're going to dive back 20 years ago and relive the good old days. And what I always start off with is for the two of you guys. So what got you guys initially into music?
Oh, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Well, you know what probably got me into music was actually the first time I remember. I was probably like 8 or 9, and I got my first record, or actually wasn't a record player, but it was like a small little Sony boombox for Christmas. And I remember playing with the radio and hearing One by Metallica.
Nice.
And I remember, God, I must have been maybe 8 or 9 years old. And I remember my mom like freaking out, like, what are you listening to? And that was like the first thing, because I remember like the next day I said to my father, I'm like, I got to get this CD. And I remember him taking me and getting And Justice for All.
Wow.
And that was the first time I really got into music. And after that, it was, everything. I love music. I love melody, whatever it came to, real melodic, and from there, I think it just kind of ventured into Pearl Jam, back in 91 or something when 10 came out.
I got a lot of that album.
Then I was in middle school and I started getting into, Green Day and, started getting into punk and, eventually into ska music too as well. And, that was pretty much basically it. And it was just always my thing. It was just music. But I really got into like the punk ska thing probably when I was in about probably 7th grade or so.
What was it
age.
about? What was it about like that style of music that like got you into loving that?
You know what it was? It had to be just the rawness to everything. I remember I was in 7th grade and there was a new kid that moved to our town, and he was from California. I became really good friends with him. He was into music, and we just became good friends. And I used to go to the city with him and his mother because they had family out there, and we used to go to Bleecker Street Records. And I had to be like, shit, if I was in 7th grade, I was probably about, I don't know, what are you like? 12, I was probably about 13.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 13 going on 14 into 8th grade. And I remember he picked up a Minor Threat CD, and it was like their compilation album. And again, I was like 13, 14 years old, and we started just kind of expanding into punk music and going through linear notes and, you know, all the CD booklets and the tape booklets, the thank yous, and that's how we kind of branch out. And then from there, I got into more music by riding my bike to Flipside every day on the weekends. No joke. I was like, you know, I grew up in Bloomingdale, so Pompton Lakes was right there for me. Me and my buddy Derek used to ride our bikes on the weekends. And I was probably about 14, 15 at the time. And, you know, Dan, who owned Flipside, was there. You know, Alan was there.
Yeah.
And we'd be just picking up records left and right, you know, getting advice from Alan, and he'd give us recommendations.
It's funny. I just interviewed Alan right before your guys' interview yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Tuesday. Yeah, so that's like super funny that you're talking about that, because that was mentioned in a couple of interviews.
Yeah, I mean, he was huge with all that stuff. I mean, it was just such a godsend being able to like go to a record store like that. And at that age too, you know, try not to get killed on our bikes on, you know, Hamburg Turnpike, riding there and under the 287 underpass.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, it was awesome because, you know, he'd have recommendations. He had new albums coming in, and, you know, it was probably, I guess I was, you know, even show flyers and stuff. I think like the first band I ever saw live, you know, locally, you know, besides like a real concert, it was like Less Than Jake. And I think it was like, shit, I don't even know where it was, but it was like 95.
It was local?
Maybe. Yeah. And I don't remember where it was. It was either 95 or 96. It could have been. Yeah, it could have been. And I think that was like one of the first band, you know, first ska bands I got into, you know, but with them and like the Bosstones, but like Less Than Jake really hit it off for me.
Yeah.
You know, as far as getting into like the whole ska thing. And I just loved you know, what really caught me was like just the bass and the vocal melodies and stuff. I just thought it was great, you know, for such a raw, you know, fast type of music. And, you know, that was my thing. So that's my history in a nutshell. Quickly, you know.
Yeah. But I'm passing the baton on then.
Off to Josh.
Yeah.
All right. I'd say it was in the 80s when I saw the movie Short Circuit, and I heard the song Who's Johnny by El DeBarge. And I said, I have to learn how to play guitar because I need to know how to play music like this. And then I heard Sublime, and I was like, oh, wow, El DeBarge sucks. What was I thinking?
Wait, there was a big gap between the two bands.
Well, you know, it's kind of like when Jesus found out he was Jesus, right? There's a whole big section of the Bible missing. This thing's happened. No, I mean, I was always into music. My parents had a ton of vinyl albums, and they were all like classic rocks, like Zeppelin, Clapton, Cream, Hendrix, The Who. And I just we had a record player. I always loved playing them. I always liked the Beatles and Hendrix. And we had like a guitar around. And finally, I think it was 5th or 6th grade, and we were like getting it was like the last couple of days of school, and a bunch of kids were like, let's form a band. And everybody was like, but nobody's got instruments. And they were like, well, we'll buy instruments this summer, and we'll all learn them. It sounds like a movie almost. We'll all learn them, and then we'll come back and play. Well, I was the only sucker who bought an instrument. I was going to buy a bass guitar, and then my dad talked me into playing the guitar, and that was good advice by him. And I ended up getting a guitar and a Gorilla amp, and that was it. But as far as being into music, I even as a little kid, I loved music. I mean, it was like this stuff.
Did you like see it as it was your gateway to? I talk about this in a bunch of episodes, but it was like your gateway where you wanted to live that lifestyle when you grew up, or you just wanted to just. I mean, I think even after I ask this question every time, I think that everyone starts because they want to become a rock star.
I don't really think I knew what being a rock star was.
Or like being, you know, from MTV. Like you look on.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I remember like when MTV first came out, and I was like into music before MTV came out. So like back then you didn't really have, like, I think when I was a little kid, like I was just listening to music and I just loved how cool it all sounded. I think I really wanted, like, my ideology was not necessarily the ideology of wanting to be a rock star, but more of like wanting to play that. Like I really wanted to play the music, kind of like a kid watching somebody ride a bicycle or playing baseball, being like, I want to do that. I don't want to watch, you know?
Interesting.
And I think for me, it was like, I don't want to listen. I want to play it.
Huh. Did you, when you got your guitar, did you took, because you were really good at guitar, did you take lessons or did you teach yourself?
I didn't at first. I for 3 or 4 months, I just tried to teach myself, which didn't really work very good. And then I ended up taking 3 months worth of lessons from Mike Lawler up at Sussex Music. And then I practiced for years and years and years. And then when I was like 17, I got to take about like a year's worth of lessons where like every couple of weeks I'd go in and I played with Eric Shankman, the old Spin Doctors guitar player. And
wait, like, seriously?
Yeah. My cousin Iona used to work for she worked for many different bands, and the Spin Doctors was one of them. And when he left the Spin Doctors, he was like living in the city, like down by like, I think the Wall Street area or something, if I remember.
Wow.
And I used to go in there once in a while. You know, I think maybe like I had like a total of 10 lessons or something. And that was a fun time.
That's crazy.
Those were more jamming, though. It wasn't really like a lesson per se. It was more just got to jam with the guy and chill out, you know, which was pretty wild, you know, because it was like the guy was unreal. I mean, he was just such a phenomenal player that the Spin Doctors never really showed you. And, you know, learned a lot of cool techniques. And he just had, like, I remember, speaking of Hendrix, he was working on an album. It was a Hendrix tribute album at the time. And he actually had, like, recordings from Electric Lady Studios where it was like just Hendrix, like, and his band jamming Stone Cold, and you heard Jimmy going like, yeah, this is a new song, just follow me on it, you know, and they're playing it, just vocals, and you're just like, wow, like I would have never gotten ever to hear this is like insane.
That's fucking
but yeah, it was never so much to rock stardom. I never really thought we'd make it like that.
Well, that's also, that's a good perspective. I've never thought about, and I'm not making an age joke, but like that people getting into music, because I got into music too before MTV came out. I mean, MTV was like 82, 83 or whatever. Like, I remember just getting cable and it came on. But I remember listening to, my sister had these 7-inches, like the Joan Jett record, and we used to listen to that. But it was, I had never heard of someone just being like, I just wanted to be a part of making music.
Yeah, that's like, I just like thought how cool it would be to be playing it, like, you know, to actually play it with the way that people like can play it as good as them and be part, like, because that's really like, whenever, like, to me, when we recorded music and I listened to it, that was always like the worst experience part of being part of the band. Like, really? For me, it was just playing out. Like, to me, that was the experience. Like, that's what I've always wanted. Like, I like jamming with people and playing out. The whole making a record and recording it and you know, like, there's so much to judge, man. When you play out, everybody forgets half the mistakes. But it's also the fun. Like, making an album is not necessarily the super fun experience. It's cool, the outcome, but it's a lot of work, man. It's like building a house.
I agree with you.
It's a lot nicer to live in a house than build one. Yeah.
It's,
you know, so.
Good point. Yeah, it's definitely rewarding, but, you know, just sitting there and just getting the drums, and you're just recording the drums first with what you scratch tracks, and you're like, holy shit, this is just so long.
It's so different, Yeah, I always remember being really turned off to the studio process. I always just wanted to play live. Like, that was my thing.
Well, what so kind of, that's a good segue into just playing live, because, you know, so Steve, you came in the band later on.
Yeah, actually, it's funny how I don't know, it's funny, but I was young, man. I was a baby. I didn't even have my driver's license when I joined the band.
16 or 17.
Yeah, I was 16 years old, and if I remember correctly, I was at a show and it might have been in Teaneck. We went to a show, and actually, no, the first time I saw you guys play was at, and I could be wrong again, but I could have swore it was at the Butler VFW Hall with Mike played, because it was Congress of Cal, Sticker. I could have swore you guys played at that show too.
Yeah, you guys were Spaz.
Yeah,
yeah.
Steve was the transition to Right Turn Eddie, kind
Yeah. And I thought of that too. I was writing the questions, and I'm like, wait a minute, they were fucking called Spat, and actually something else.
Originally, it was called the Good Times Band for a while, and the band was completely different. It was different songs, and then we kind of fizzled out. And a couple of us, the Tamillo brothers and me, ended up kind of going into Spaz, and we had a different drummer back then, and that kind of evolved into what turned into Right Turn Eddie per se.
And in that show it was also Against All Authority.
All Authority.
They were the headliners, and Heft.
The reason we had to get a new bass player was what happened. I think the bass player we had, I don't know what happened. I think he got arrested or something.
Really?
He robbed the store. So I don't know what happened. There was something crazy happened with one of our bass players. I remember a long time ago. We found out he never showed up for band practice, and a month later or something, I found out he robbed a CVS or something and got caught. We were like, what? We never got that vibe from him.
I remember I did buy his bass amp off of him, so I'm sure he needed the cash. That's why he sold it to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but I was.
I don't know if it was that bass player, but it might have been somebody else. But I do remember one of them. We found some crazy things. Yeah, there was a lot of different people who changed through the bands over the years.
Yeah.
Steve was one of the consistents. And Right Turn Eddie, Steve was there from the front to the end as far as Right Turn Eddie goes.
Yeah, and you guys...
Same with
the Tamillo
Pete
brothers.
Tamillo, I guess.
Yeah, and Pete was always there. And, so real quick, what was your first local show? Either of you? Either of you, because Steve, that obviously wasn't your first show, though.
As a band?
So what I always ask, what got you to a show? Was it because your band was playing a show and you happened to show up, or you heard about it, showed up first, and then you were like, oh, I can now play shows as my band?
No, I was the minute I was old enough to go to shows, I was in bands young. I was at 14, 15, I was in bands with kids that were 19, 20. And, so I was playing shows. They'd sneak me in the back door. I'd play clubs and stuff, but I was going to show. I would go to every ska show I could. I would go to the Wetlands for they would just have ska shows every Friday night. Wow. I remember seeing so many ska. I would just go there and dance my face off and have a hoot. I just loved going to shows. Just that whole live performance is just the most fun thing ever. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Did you get there because those guys drove you? Because the Wetlands is quite a drive from Stockholm.
Well, when I was going to the Wetland shows all the time, that was before Right Turn Eddie, but I was 17. So I would drive to the city, and then I would go into the city and hang out all night till 2 in the morning, and then drive home, get the path and drive home. And between there and Coney Island High and Irving Plaza, we just hit all these different clubs and venues. And that's actually where I made a lot of connections, because I remember that band Edna's Goldfish, when they were coming up, I remember seeing them at their first show at some, I can't remember what club it was, but it was one, I think it might have been the Red Lion or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And it was dirt, and then I remember talking to them and stuff. And then when I had a band, we met up a couple times, and yeah, it was fun. I just always loved going to all the shows, that and the punk shows and, different shows that would come to town.
Yeah. Steve, what was your first show?
My first local show must have been, like I said, I remember seeing Less Than Jake, but my first real, that I can remember is that show we just spoke about, was the Against All Authority show. Because I remember it, I literally we walked home from there because, again, I grew up in Bloomingdale and it was in Butler. So it was right by our high school. And I remember walking home that night. And I remember that being an insane show.
I think actually good.
Yeah, I think Against All Authority might have gotten cut off at some point by the cops, and they shut it down. But that show was insane. And I just remember, just seeing so many people together in that place packed, sweating your balls off, and, just the energy and everything. It was awesome. And that really kind of kicked everything off for me, where that was, from then on out, it was every weekend I was going to shows with my buddy Derek at the time. And again, that was actually the first time I saw you and Barker and the boys play, and Andy played with you guys that day.
Yep.
And, and then from there on out, I think it was a couple weeks later or a couple months later, I'd gone to a show and Right Turn Eddie was playing, and I don't know how I knew or how I found out or what you guys did. Maybe you posted something online, or God, did we even have internet back then?
I think we did.
I don't remember.
I feel like you did. It's funny you say that because I was going to say that earlier, and I feel like the internet had just there was some forums, and I remember posting an ad. And I think you did like respond to the ad.
Yeah.
And then I remember we had a big band meeting because we were like, well, we're going to try this kid out. And he's a young kid, and we're all like, talking like adults about it.
Yeah, right.
Just a bunch of goofballs. I'm really only like a few years older than him. Like in the scheme of things at my age now, I'd be like, you guys were all just a bunch of kids. Get over it. Not to go back a little bit, but
go back.
It's funny you guys were talking about like where your first local show was, and I feel like when I was that age, like when you went to your first local show, like there weren't local shows back then. Like a local show was like a local cover band playing at like a hillbilly bar or something.
Yeah, right.
Like it's funny because I feel like all that renting out a hall and doing a show, that kind of started by our generation per se. People weren't doing that necessarily like that before that. Bands played at clubs. That was the only place you played. And that was kind of a way for the punk and ska bands to get around the fact that clubs didn't want us to play there.
Yeah.
And we had an underage crowd, right? We had an underage crowd. Bars don't want that. They don't make money off that.
I remember it's funny because that's like the one thing is when because that Butler show wasn't my first show that I went to because Barker had put on a show in Mount Arlington, Elks Lodge, and it was like the first Congress Cow show, and like we were first, and everyone sat down in front of us, and it was so like it sucked so badly, and I'm like this sucks. This isn't a club, this isn't a stage. But then we went to the Butler show, and I got to see what it was really like, and I think at that point is where it just started to take off. Where real shows.
And the scene down there was like, I always remember playing like the Butler, the Kinlaw, and then like some at Bergen County, and the scene, and even Wayne, like the scene, the kids were cooler down there. They they were just into it. It was a much cooler scene. I always remember going down and being like, damn, man.
And that had to be in '96 sometime.
Yeah.
But now that I'm thinking, because when I had joined the band,
that was about that time.
It was in '96 because
I was out of high school.
Yeah.
And you were, and I graduated in '95, so it'd be about right. It's about like '96 or so.
Where was the first Spaz show?
First Spaz show, I mean, we played actually a lot of different crazy places. At one point, we had a bass player who was a really good marketer, this guy, Steve Marcheso, and he kind of started the band with me, and he was from Vernon, and he got us shows all over. I mean, we played like the Red Lion, we played like the Sussex County Fair, we played the Rampage on the River festivals, like the first 3 of them. So Spaz actually had like a lot of good gigs. We always played really good gigs. I think our first show we might have done like an open mic or something, but we were always playing clubs and stuff. And I was playing with Steve before that. We actually played in a band called Just the Norm when I was like 17, I think. And it was like an instrumental indie rock, like space rock, funky kind of thing. It was 3 of us, him on bass, and we had this guy, Craig Meyer, who ended up going on to be like a studio drummer and stuff like that. He was a phenomenal drummer.
Wow.
That was a cool band, but I had kind of stayed with him for a couple of years, and we kind of progressed into Spaz and stuff eventually when we got like new people in the horns and stuff. He was in the band with the Tamillo brothers when we first started out and stuff, and then he was more metal, so as we started to get more punk rocky and stuff, it changed a little bit. I think he moved to Florida, and then we got a new bass player, and it was what it was. The many changes, man.
Yeah, I think I remember hung out with you guys one time. You had a Spaz practice. It was in the Tamillo brothers' basement.
I think that was probably when Johnny Tamillo was playing with us, right?
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, he was playing for drums. He was playing drums for you guys at that time.
He's a phenomenal drummer, and I'm not cracking anything on Folly. Great band, awesome, but Johnny's such a damn good drummer.
Yeah.
And he's a singer. He's like good, but I mean, it was a screamy band. It's not like he was like, like Michael Bolton or something per se, and damn, he's rocking in Folly, but he's a good drummer. It's kind of like when people talk about David Grohl. If you don't know Nirvana, you don't know that guy can play, right? So
yeah. Yeah, he was he was sick, man. He was younger too.
John was a ripping drummer, man. He really was.
Yeah, he used to fill in a lot for us, as right turn Eddie here and there. He played.
Yeah, there was a point where right turn Eddie, when we had problems with Steve on drums, the drummer, and Johnny was like a drummer for like, I don't know, I think like a couple months. Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah. I know Steve Weir. Steven Weir.
And then Steve came back.
Yeah.
It sounds about right.
Kicked him out for a little while, and then he was like, it was kind of like a come to Jesus for him, per se.
It was weird going to that practice because Mr. Tamolo was the music teacher of my high school in Jefferson. And yeah, he shared an office with Mr. Wynn, who was the choir teacher. And
yes,
like I think that same year, me and Chris, we got up on stage. It was like a coffee house, and we played with Steve on drums, and this guy Joe Antonucci. We played Green Day's Longview, and then we were gonna play Black by Pearl Jam, but we got kicked off. We got the curtain closed on us because I had to like just bail from the mic every time there were swear words, but I just like yelled the masturbation part. And when we were done, they just closed the curtains, and we're like, what the fuck? So I remember, I think when I went to his house, I was kind of like, oh, fuck this guy. Like, he's friends with Mr. Wynn, who made the call to, like, close the curtains on us.
Man.
It was so odd. Oh, man. What was, how hard was it to practice? Because, I mean, you guys, like a ska band, there's so many fucking people in these bands. Like, how was it to organize that shit?
You know,
it wasn't easy.
Yeah, we were very regimented, I would say. Like we were like practices Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you know, I mean, I'm sure Steve will attest to it. Back then, I was a dickhead if you didn't show up for practice. I was kind of So like we just like it was what it was. I was kind of a Nazi about it, and we practiced twice a week. We practiced for like 2 hours. I remember something like that. I think, and it was like just like we ran over stuff, and then we would be done and chill. You know, it'd be like that's it. But
yeah, I think we broke it down. We'd run through a set or all the songs, and then we'd use like either the first half or the last half hour to kind of work on some new songs and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we had a nice schedule too, and I think it was, you know, you had to. When you had at one point, I think we had 7 guys in the band.
We had 7 guys. You had a 4-piece horn section.
It was you, me,
the rhythm section.
Steve was on drums.
You had shotgun, right?
We had Pat on Barry sax.
Yep.
Pat Tamillo. Pete Tamillo was on trumpet. Pat Rapoli on trombone, and we had Matt on. Was he on alto or tenor? I think it was a tenor.
He was on both. He did like a little.
Yeah, I think he switched back and forth. So
wasn't that shotgun? Wasn't that his nickname?
Yeah, I think we called him Shotgun. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all had. Steve was Slayer.
Yeah.
That's right, because he had a double bass.
Because I think we were probably one of the only ska bands that had just constant double bass kicking on through all our recordings.
You know, I will say though, Steve. Before we had Steve, we didn't have that edge, and Steve really, you know, he was a monster on the drums, and he gave us quite an edge over a lot of bands. And I'll tell you, when we were doing those like 2-week. Like, we were in the thick of it, we were tight. I mean, we were like, to quote an old bass player of mine, we were like a dolphin's butt, watertight. I mean, we would play at practice. I mean, like we would just, like, look at each other and come in on a song. Like, we wouldn't even need to start with a stick count. It was just, I mean, I remember being, like, so, like, almost, like, to a fault, you know?
Yeah, I remember you guys were
always loving us.
Oh, yeah, the neighbors didn't like us. Yeah, towards the end, we used to just do, like rehearsal studio practices and stuff because it was just easier.
Where'd you guys go?
Backstage.
Is that the one that was in West Patterson?
Yeah, then there was the other one by, was that in that Fairlawn or whatever?
Oh, Fairfield.
Fairfield up top 46.
That I think was backstage.
Yeah, backstage with the
I think
belts.
it's backstage was in Patterson. That was the Russian guys who walked in. They had all that. They had the crappy PV Eddie Van Halen amps and crap going in there. Like all of a sudden you sound like Slayer for the night. You just go, Jesus.
Yeah.
Listen to some cheese metal band playing next to you. You'd be like, oh no.
It was either like cover bands or like some wedding bands or some shit where they're playing punk music and ska music. Yeah, Steve.
They'd be looking at us with 2 heads as we're walking out. What were you guys playing in there?
You're like, have good luck with that stupid music you're playing. And they don't even realize the shows we're going to are like packed with all these kids who actually gave a shit.
Exactly. There were times, man. It was great.
Yeah. It really was. What was that guy? And the guy Steve, he the big ball guy, and then he had like that dog with the giant balls, the German Shepherd. Do you remember this? How do you not remember balls?
In our band?
No, in the studio.
Oh,
in
no, I don't.
backstage.
Hey,
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking
We're
about.
looking at each other like,
Yeah,
we
I'm
really
thinking
had
about
two
that.
Steves.
I'm sorry. I had a long day at work today. No, I do remember. Holy shit, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
We used to always make fun of it. We're like, oh, there's Balls, the German Shepherd.
Yep. Yeah, he would always, the dog was just laying there on the floor, and yep.
The place was sketchy.
Yeah, it was. It always smelled like shit, like mold and just piss, and yep.
Cigarettes.
But what was it like? I think it was like $20 an hour or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it still is that rate.
Probably.
Oh, I was down there maybe like 2 or 3 years ago for a night just jamming with some buddies. I think it's still the same rate.
No shit.
Yeah. I don't think it's that much if I remember right.
Oh my god.
But yeah, they're all still there.
Jesus, they're never leaving. So what was it about ska music why'd you guys go in that direction initially? I mean, Josh, obviously, because you started the band in ska.
I there was like when I was in my late teen years, I just really started like, there was like in the early mid 90s, ska was kind of in an explosion time frame. Like it was just starting to really hit. It wasn't so much a TV thing like it is nowadays. It was more of like, it was what like some of the young kids were listening to and stuff. And I kind of, for some reason with me, ska, and still to this day, ska and reggae, I like everything, but when I hear ska, I never have a bad time. Like, and I just always thought like how much fun it would be to be in a ska band, even though from a guitar standpoint, it's a real step back. Like, as a guitar player, I guess to reference what you talked about wanting to be a rock star, I never wanted to be a rock star, but I always obviously thrived to want to be the world's best guitar player per se, although that's never happening, but certainly I think you have those dreams of grandeur, and obviously the ska band is not very appealing for that per se. It's no Eddie Van Halen music. It's no Jimi Hendrix music. It's you try to make it fun, but yeah, it's pretty much just playing upbeat chords. It's very basic.
Yeah, it's like you're basically just almost playing like rhythm guitar the entire time.
Yeah, except for the occasional solo. It's like pretty, whatever. And still to this day, I still love playing ska music. Like I'll play with the band, we play acoustic stuff, and we play some Sublime and some Expendables and stuff. And every time I play a ska song, I'm like, oh, this is just so much damn fun. It's just so simplistic but fun and easy. And even though people will tell you it sucks or it's cheesy, they don't hate it. It's like this just. Everybody kind of digs ska and reggae. Like, what's wrong with it,
Yeah, it kind of matches your personality, because I remember when we'd always hang out, you were just like a super upbeat, fun guy. And like Steve, you were the same thing, always like happy. And it seemed like it kind of matched the band. Some bands, and they're aggressive, and they're all emo and dark. But you guys were always like, hey, what's going on? Like, all right, we're happy. We're here. And, I think it went along well.
In a bad mood when you're playing ska music.
Yeah, you can't get up on stage and be like, this song's about. I don't fucking care.
No, completely. And that was probably one of the things I got to say, with the way the whole scene ran and having the opportunity to play sometimes 2 shows in one day. Our weekends would be packed. You did the same thing.
Yeah.
I remember weekends, I probably saw you 2 or 3 times, wherever it may have been. Yeah. And it was, and it was everybody. It was familiar faces, and that was the thing with the ska music too. Like, I got a lot of shit from it in high school from a bunch of kids, but then again, I went to a high school where nobody played music. It was all about sports and everything else. But I got along with everyone, and when I started playing the band, I'd get shit on and my balls busted. And I remember, again, because I was, I don't know, I must have been sick. I was 16 when I started playing in this band. Just about to turn 17 and get my license. I had like 4 months to go. And I remember and I was one of the older ones in my grade, and I remember my junior year in high school, once everyone started getting their licenses, I think there was a show, and it must have been, I know Humble played, you guys played, but it was Lanemeyer, us, and I guess a bunch of other bands. And I remember half my high school showed up, and I was like, what the fuck? And, they all had caught wind. Everyone showed up, and, like, everyone was, like, starting to kind of get into the music thing. And, but I was always so happy about it. I just enjoyed playing it, and like Josh said, it was that upbeat, music that just kind of kept me going. And we kind of always, I don't know, we weren't like a straight up just ska band.
Oh, no,
you know what I mean?
No,
the way
Josh,
like Josh was saying, Josh is probably one of the best guitar players I've ever played with. Like,
Yeah.
No, for real. Like,
yeah, you were sick.
I always started as a guitar player. I didn't pick up bass until I had the opportunity to try out.
That's right. Yeah, you were a guitar player before you were in the band.
Yeah, I was borrowing equipment the first couple shows because I didn't have anything for the first couple weeks because I always played guitar, and but I wanted to do it, and I said, you know what, I'll go for it because I just wanted to challenge. I always wanted to push myself, kind of like he said, like, and challenge myself on the bass, and to this day now, I can thank Wright Ternetti for my severe carpal tunnel in my left hand. So I'm not kidding, dude, because I'm left-handed, but I play right-handed. My left hand is destroyed. So.
Oh my god! Wait, did you? Wait, you played it? You played the upside down bass too?
No, I kept it regular, but I'm left-handed, so I would play a right-handed guitar and bass.
You play guitar? Do you play lefty or right?
No, I play righty.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
But that was that was a challenge for me, but it took me a while to get my speed up for the band. But yeah, I mean, we played a lot. Like, the way we were set up, I mean, we have so much. You can hear the metal influence between your style and even Steve's.
Yeah, I was always into metal, so
yeah,
it's like when you play guitar, how could you not play metal? Right?
Yeah, I remember you would just go up into solos and just kind of start shredding, even if it wasn't recorded like that. I think you would just kind of lay into it.
I never liked playing the recorded solos when you played out live. That's like the time you get to play anything. It's like you keep the rest of the song perfect, and then you do that part. You do it crazy because that's fun.
But didn't you also like fuck up like the lyrics too at times? Like, you didn't really remember the lyrics at shows.
That is like my. I'm really good now, but like, man, I used to like just never memorize them.
It used to piss me off to no end.
Terrible. I was so terrible.
Oh man, like my favorite.
But at the same time, that's what the live thing was, right? Like, I was whatever, I don't care. Everybody's having fun. Nobody ever looks at me and goes like, "Oh, I was having a great time till you fucked up that one lyric." Like, I'm just like, you know what it is? I rely on the fact that most people don't know lyrics anyway.
Yeah.
I'll reference that Volkswagen commercial where they're doing the Elton John song Rocket Man, and they show everybody singing the song wrong. And my wife, up until 2 years ago, thought the song Lay Down Sally by Eric Clapton was Way Down South. So most people don't notice that I had messed up a couple lyrics here and there. But I will admit to it, I messed up a lot. It's all right.
One of my favorite songs was Butch, because I loved the chorus to it, and every time you guys played it, I got so excited. And then you'd sing the chorus, and you'd completely fuck it up. And I'm like, dude! And I would yell at you afterwards. I'm like, hey, you just learn the goddamn lyrics. I'm like, I love that song. You're like, I don't care.
That song actually went through quite a few bands, I think.
It did. That was an older song. That was a Spaz song, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's on the demo tape that's on the NJPP archives.
Yeah, who does that? That's pretty cool that's out there.
This guy Joe Polito, he was.
We've probably met before, and we don't know.
No, he would go to shows. He has an interview on this, and he would go to shows back in the day. But he started to be in bands in like the early 2000s. So his part of the scene was later on when everything shifted and turned. But he was huge in the scene, and he put on so many shows that he had so many fucking demos that he kept them all, and then he transferred them all digitally and then archived them on a Tumblr page.
Wow, he is certainly.
Yeah, you know what's crazy too, because
awesome.
I pop onto it every now and then, and just to listen to different bands, and I got to say, like, the stuff that I actually still do have, and that or if I have like MP3 version, he's got better quality of the shit I got of my own stuff, which is awesome because I could just stream it now. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's got your whole collection up there. He's got the demo tape with 2 Scoops, Genuine Draft, and Butch. He's got the 7-inch. So you guys had the split with NC-17s.
Yeah. It's truly amazing because I actually thought I didn't have any of those songs anymore. Like the demo tape song and the 7-inch songs. I have a couple 7-inches, but I don't have record players anymore. And like I thought, like those songs were gone. Like I could just never hear them again.
I actually still have that 7-inch. I have your split 7-inch still.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of them up in the garage. I have a couple of them. So,
I was actually just rocking your remastered album the other day in the office.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Badami did a good job on it. It sounds awesome, dude.
I know. Yeah, Badami like fucking. We never had it mastered to begin with. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then obviously that doesn't take away that he did a really good job at it, but Sean was telling me that he's like, dude, have you heard it on like a Sonos speaker? I said, no. He's like, it sounds fucking good. I was like, that's
No,
cool.
it does. I got a really good speaker set up in my office, and it's pretty much a surround sound because I can't get through my job without it. So, and I actually, because I off of Apple Music, I did you do the subscription, so I got that, and then also the Humble remaster too, and they both sound fucking phenomenal.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's awesome that you guys got the opportunity to do that and do the show. I tried getting to the show, but unfortunately, Dad got in the way. So
yeah, that was a bunch of people had that. They like couldn't get a babysitter, or like it fell through, or they just couldn't. Or actually, and then a couple people were like, or Mike from OCG, he was like literally had his kid that weekend.
Oh shit.
Yeah, actually another friend had theirs. Yeah, I was like, I guess I'll let that go, dicks. Okay, two things popped in my head. Do you remember Matt, the guy with the blonde dreads? He was following you guys all over the place.
Yeah.
What was his name? He had the fish suck shirt.
Around practice and shows.
What was his last name?
He was like my personal chauffeur because I didn't have a driver's license.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like Matt Lepore or like
I don't remember.
like something. He
I
was
can't remember the last
mascot.
name, but yeah.
Yeah, he had the like I said, the fish sucks shirt. There was a logo which said sucks, and there's a bunch of pictures that I have where he's like dancing around. Like he would come with us to West Milford or West Orange, but then like towards the end he just became really fucking annoying, and then he just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah. Well, like stuff kind of went awry per se. Like Matt was Matt was a cool dude. We hung out. Like, he was kind of like roadieing with us and would dance and occasionally hop on the mic, and it was cool. But like as things went on, it definitely became more apparent per se that Matt like definitely wanted more part of the band, and we just weren't looking for like anything. And, and like you said, it just wasn't like there were times I think we had like some weird situations and stuff with him. And,
actually, when we were recording the 7-inch, I remember that he was in the studio with us, and I think I remember, he was we were packed in Chris's garage because at the time Portrait was in the garage.
Yeah.
And it was, on top of 7 dudes, it was him as well.
It's not still in the garage.
No, he's actually back down the street.
Got like
where
a
I
real
live.
studio.
Oh, he's had a real
It's
studio.
huge.
Really?
Yeah.
You do that now? Oh, he's done some great
He
shit.
did like Dillinger Escape Plan with
Well, no,
Mike
I've
Penn.
heard he's done some amazing things, and I've heard some of his recordings. I just didn't realize.
Yeah,
Like
it's huge
studio.
studio.
Yeah. His other one
The
after that
man.
was down in Lincoln Park, but now he's got it in his barn right on his by his house.
I kind of want it to be back in that garage in his parents' house because I have fond memories of playing Excite Bike and him yelling at me that I need to be recording. Honestly,
Getting my ass kicked in Blades of Steel.
yeah, we had. Yeah, I remember just like there'd be like 7 of us in there. Like there was always somebody to play with because you have so many guys in the band, So somebody be recording, and you'd be in there playing video games, having fun.
Yeah, I think what happened, you're right. It was, I think he wanted to have a little more. He wanted to pretty much, I think, like be in the band.
Yeah, he wanted to be in the band.
Yeah.
We just and I think there was also points where like he wasn't getting, like some of the guys in the band weren't getting along with him and stuff like that. Like they were button heads and yeah.
I mean, again, like I'm sure he's a super fucking great guy. I'm not like I don't care, but I
I don't
remember
know. I
that
haven't seen
time.
him since.
Yeah, he just like, but he just like it was like poof, he was fucking gone.
Yeah.
And we're like, Jesus Christ, but yeah, he was always a big staple, like with you guys for like a long time. Or for me, I say a long time, and I talked to some people, and they're like, yeah, I did I'm like, all those years of shows. They're like, yeah, we did 3. I'm like, wow, really? It's like,
yeah,
man,
I think Matt was with us for like a year or so of the band.
Maybe.
You know what? I think it was once me and Steve joined the band. Me and Steve. I think it was a few months after that, maybe not more than 2 or 3 months after that was when it.
Yeah.
Oh, he was getting on Steve's nerves too.
I remember him just butting heads with a lot of guys in bands and like just like like them like kind of looking at him being like, dude, you're like not even in the band, and it was what it was, man.
Did you guys go to shows outside of playing them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Usually, if we didn't have a show we pretty much would definitely have a show every weekend. But if it was like if we didn't have one on Friday or Saturday night, we would always hit a show. We weren't going to like promote or anything or fly or anything like that. Sometimes we fun, but we didn't have to because we always played with you. We always played with Humble. We always played with like
Oh yeah, the scene back then, like they call you up and
Taxi Cab, OCG, got all the
Day 19.
Yeah, Day 19.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
I
All
remember
those
going to
guys.
shows all the time. You know, seeing you guys, going to see Humble. You know, outside, or like bands like Cooter.
And it was cool
Gateway.
too because we all like hung and chilled and partied together per se. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, like I remember like many fun times like hanging out with Gabe and Josh, like after shows going. I think we slept over at Josh's house one night, and you know, like bands would do that. I mean, I remember the Skaters World days, and I mean, my house was like a freaking bus station for bands sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I had bands from all over the country stay at my house at different parts and times, and people sleeping all over my floor and stuff and whatnot. You know,
Yeah, that was
a lot
the
of
best
fun.
party house.
Yeah, that house was fun. I'm surprised we didn't knock it over, but it was pretty fun.
Yeah, we were just saying that. We're
Yeah.
surprised with all the music we played there and everybody hanging out. Yeah, it was good times.
Do you still have the green Trace Elliott guitar amp?
I do.
Wow.
Yeah, yes, it's over at my my drummer's house, but I do still have it. I would never get. I got rid of my half stack some years, like a year ago. I sold it, but yeah, just because it was like the world's largest paperweight. You know.
It was so fucking heavy.
Yeah, well, unless you're playing like like Irving Plus, you don't need a half stack.
Yeah.
You get to the point, but the trace I've kept. I have all the old guitars I used to have, with the exception of the one that I gave to Chris Badami for some studio time for Right Trinity because we couldn't afford it all.
Yeah,
I remember during some of the recording we were like short, and I had like put out every dollar I had already, and I was like, well, I got a nice guitar. And I think I talked to Chris via email not too long ago, like within the last year, and he had said, he's like, yeah, well, I was just talking about you the other day. Somebody asked me where I got that guitar that you had given me. And I was like, oh, yeah. I think it was like a Telecaster. He's got like a Telecaster. That was mine. That I always liked that Telecaster, too.
That's
Good
amazing.
one.
Where'd you guys record most of your albums?
with him. Yeah.
Well, the demo
Yeah,
tape wasn't with him.
No, the demo tape and what about the 7-inch?
The 7-inch.
The demo tape, I think you guys actually recorded in the Tamilo's basement.
No, the demo tape was done in. There was a demo tape, and wasn't there? Wait, was there a full length tape that we did?
You've got
Where the demo tape had like 4 songs on it. Or
the
something.
demo tape
Spaz.
3.
Two Scoops, Butch, and
Genuine Draft.
That was done in a studio down in Bloomfield.
Okay.
There was BFD Records. The bass player in the band was friends with this guy, so he put us on a record label, and he did all the recording. It was kind of like a basement studio, but it was a pretty nice studio. But yeah, we did all that in there, and then the rest with Portrait, and then towards the end we tried recording with Bob Booth. But the band was, I'd say, like on its last leg. Like we were all starting to go our different ways, and we were like recording a little bit, but. We never finished it, never, finalized anything. And after that, we were kind of like done per se.
So
We
before,
started.
go
ahead.
Dave. No, keep going.
No, I was gonna say because after Ray Ternetti, you and me were playing with Del
Yeah.
Vecchio for a while. We were jamming out and doing something. Then
With
we ended up
Sprat,
playing
too.
with and then Sprat. And
Yeah.
then we ended up doing something with somebody else. There was Kid Pete playing drums with you and me,
Yeah.
and doing something. And we were just having
Yeah.
fun, but
Yeah, we tried to keep some stuff alive, but
yeah, we were just
it
playing.
was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like after Right Ternetti, I was really like against playing ska music for a little while. And I feel like it was a nice break, and now I like creeping back into it from time to time. But yeah, definitely. We did the majority of the recording with Chris, which was fun because when we started with Chris, like Steve was saying, he was really like, I wouldn't say he's just starting out, but he was really just starting out with his studio per se. And I remember bringing oh, this guy Chris is great, and he just had an awesome little studio. He was awesome to work with. He was always super fun to work with.
Yeah, he came to the show, and we were playing. There's a video, and like right at before our last song, I was just like, I got to give a shout out to this guy, like Chris. I was like, because all of you here basically listen to this music because of him recording it.
Yeah,
And it was just, he got up on stage and he just like, everyone was like cheering for him. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, he did everybody.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like back then too. It was tough because there weren't a lot of good studios, and most of the studios pretty much had this like set thing, like, yeah, we'll do your demo tape. It costs like $300. Like they weren't like, yeah, we'll go by the hour and let's work this out and make it a project. They had like this gimmick that they would sell you, and everybody would get this very cookie cutter crap demo that you get, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember Chris came along and was actually like willing to like, and you know, he was good to work with because I remember he'd give you like a real honest input, you know, and I feel like a lot of times, you know, they give you this like, yeah, it sounds wonderful. You guys are going to be like flying jets tomorrow. Just give me my paycheck, you know. And Chris was definitely like, yeah, you know, you can do this, or why don't you try that, you know. I mean, even he certainly wasn't trying to, because he was cheap. He wasn't trying to make business for himself with it, but he was definitely, you know, really trying to guide us, which was huge because we were new to the recording process, and it was like awesome to do that. I feel like, you know, it's comfortable.
He'd be like, yeah, man,
you,
I don't know, man. Yeah. Thank you, Chris Badami.
Yes.
He's like, hey, man, no problem, man.
Yeah. That sounds great, man.
Josh, tell everyone what Mr. Punk Rock is about.
Mr. Punk Rock
Says that it's all right for me to sell out tonight.
Who's that song about?
You know, I don't know. I mean, you know, most back then, I've always found I love writing songs. The thing I hate writing is those lyrics. The lyric part sucks. So I would always write songs and then write lyrics after, which probably is not a good method for writing songs, kids. But yeah, Mr. Punk Rock was kind of about the fact that punk rock bands always made fun of us. And that's the truth. You guys bullied us.
So I thought that was literally that was a direct that song. I always thought that was me because you and I had this conversation about selling out. Do you remember this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we were like driving somewhere, and you're like, you're like, how can you be mad at these bands for wanting to make money? And I'm like, fuck that shit. It's about the music. I would never do that. And I just gave you so much crap. We like, you know, would say the propaganda lyrics to you about ska sucks.
Yeah.
And then I think you wrote
guys
that.
used to write. I mean, I guess in general, like, yeah, I mean, it was about you guys per se, not like you particularly, but like just about the bands that would give a shit about being like a ska band, you know?
Yeah.
And that was it. Like we were like, because that was the thing is we played. There were no ska shows until later, so we were always playing with punk rock bands and stuff. And that's where our venues came. We were the one band who could hop onto a show with a bunch of punk bands and hang out and have fun.
Yeah.
Especially up in this area, because with I work in Bergen County, with Sussex County.
Sussex and Morris, really.
And Morris, there
all
didn't
started.
seem to be many, if I'm right. I think like a lot of the ska bands were more like Warren County, like down.
You know what? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
area.
when
That's
Nitro Eddie was starting, there was only a couple. They were all towards Bergen County in New York City.
Yeah.
And then after us, a couple came out of like Sussex and Morris County and stuff. Like there was like definitely people saw you could do it.
Well, Folly
But
was like a ska hardcore band, weren't they?
Well, and Folly kind of came out of the ashes, I think, of a couple other bands.
Jim Slim,
because there
right?
was Jim Slim and the Midget Tossers.
Oh,
who had
yeah.
Frizzell singing, and he had Jim, I think, ended up going on to start the Tombstone Brawlers later or something like that, I think.
Yeah, 'cause John
maybe
was
don't
the
quote me on
drummer.
that.
Yeah,
John played drums and Jim Slim and the Midget
Yep.
Tosser. And he had
And
Brian Lawler on keyboards.
Arvin was in
Phenomenal
that band too. I don't remember
Yeah.
who played bass or guitar.
Yeah, something like that. They had a couple. Yeah, so like those bands, a lot, kind of like Right to an Eddie, those bands kind of formed out of like playing a couple different things, and you know, they're figuring out the things you like and you don't like, and you know, kind of making it a little different, and then changing the name, and you're a brand new band. That's the one funny thing about band. All of a sudden, you change the name and like write up a new song or something, and all of a sudden, you're a brand new band. You're like, no, suckers, we just like hone the style, you know.
Yeah. I think we pretty much did that. We went from Congress to Kettle Lanemire. We kicked out Andy, and then Jeff left, and we're like, well, let's get these two new guys, and then we wrote a couple songs. We're like, let's change the name. Kind of like let's rebrand. Let's rebrand the.
Yeah, it's like
the
rebranding,
business.
right? It's like a company.
Yeah, man.
You know what's funny is it just made me think about it. What the hell does Congress to Cal mean?
It was a sexual position. We were at Rockaway Mall.
Oh, right. It's actually like I was just always like, where do these guys like hire something? And they're thinking about like a bunch of cows sitting in like the Congress House or something like that. Like I was just like, I thought maybe you guys did a lot of drugs or something.
We probably were high. We were at the mall.
Maybe Andy.
Andy was definitely high. We were at the mall. Yeah, we were in the bookstore, and someone pulled out like the sex position book, and they turned to a page that said Congress of the Cow. And we're like, well, let's get rid of the, and we'll just name it Congress of Cow. And then I hated that fucking name the entire time we were in the band. I was like, I can't. So when we came up with Lane Bar, I was so happy because I liked it, but Congress of Cow was I was so embarrassed to tell people the name of it. Like, oh, what's your band? I'm like, Congress of Cow. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I fucking hate it too.
That was kind of, I never was a huge fan of the Spaz name, and Spaz was like an actor, and it was supposed to be like ska punk jazz at the time when we were like somebody else came up with it. I remember always being like, yeah, my band's name's Spaz.
Wasn't there like another band called Spaz that they were from Chicago, and you guys had? Is that one of the reasons why you had to change your name, or is just
no? That's why we changed from the Good Times Band. There was another band in the Jersey area called the Good Times Band that was like an oldies band or something. So they kept contacting us like, we have the same name, you have to change it. And this is before the internet, I mean,
oh my
please.
God.
We were like, oh Jesus, somebody's you heard like meanwhile we're like playing like hall shows. We're like, how these guys even hear about us? How bad is this band that they're like telling us to change their name? Like, we're not even playing in front of anybody.
That's
we're
hilarious.
Like, good Lord, things must be terrible for you. Sure, we'll just change your name.
So before, when Steve mentioned about playing double shows, do you remember we played, I don't know where we played before, but we were done and someone said, hey, my friend's having her Sweet 16 birthday party, and it was right next to the Taco Bell in
Holy shit.
Yeah, in Randolph. And the two of us drove there, and we was in like this, it was like, I guess it was a hall, but it was this giant mirror behind us, and we were on the floor, and then you guys played, and then we played. And do you remember this show?
Kind of vaguely do, yeah. I remember playing a couple impromptu shows like that, and they were very fun, crazy. And
I do remember that, and I remember it being the party.
Yeah. I remember, I ran into the girl, and I know, it's like, fuck. I feel like it was just recently. But she goes, yeah, you played my Sweet 16 birthday party. And this was like recent. I'm like, holy fucking shit, I can't believe. Fuck, who was that? God damn it. And it's like, I know it is someone that I know. God, I have to remember this, but god damn it. Okay, never mind. But that show was awesome. Actually, it was funny too, because we had the Christy White song, and Chris gets on the mic and goes, this song's about a girl. He goes, what school are you guys from? And they're like, Green Pond or something. He goes, do you know Christy White? And all the girls are like, yeah. He's like, well, this is about her.
Wow, man, you got a good memory. I got to tell you that, because now I do remember that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just remember all this shit. What was the best show you guys played?
You know what? We played some great shows down in Philly with NC-13s.
We did.
Yeah. We played a show where Less Than Jake had played. They were on the Hello Rockview tour.
We played
the Troubadour?
Less Than Jake after party.
Yeah.
The VIP after party.
Whoa.
Up at Trocadero. That was pretty
cool.
cool.
The Trocadero, that was it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, honestly, as far as like some of my most memorable favorite shows playing, Skaters World, man. We got to play with some really crazy bands at Skaters World.
Yeah.
We played with the Toasters there.
Yeah.
The Scofflaws.
That was like, I think, a New Year's Eve show.
Yeah, it was like a New Year's Eve show.
Yeah, that's right.
And we had some really great crowds at the Skaters World. They used to pack it in sometimes. In the beginning, towards the end, they started making too many shows and it started losing its edge. But I remember having a lot of fun there. I mean, they were all fun. It's hard to pick one because I mean, the crowd was so much fun back then. They all were kids who were like, the whole scene was created by the kids, which was really cool, right? Like it was kids, the kids playing in the bands. Kids were renting the halls out. I mean, half of us weren't even like 18 years old, and all the kids came. It was kind of the fact that we all bypassed the system of the fact that none of us were old enough to go to a club and play at a club, and clubs didn't want us, right? So, yeah, it was. I mean, even like some of my favorite shows were the hall shows, the ones where you didn't make $1 and, but like you'd look out and you'd see like 5 little high school kids like singing every lyric to your song, and you were just like, holy crap, somebody knows the lyrics to my song. Like, now I got to start learning them.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny too. I don't even think we even charged, like when we put our album out and we put the CD out. I remember, you know, we charged, what was it, like I think we all sold our 7 inches for like $2.
Yeah, we were cheap with that. We just wanted.
And when
to
our
get out
CDs
there.
came out, I don't even think we even charged half the time. We just threw them out just for people to have fun and just enjoy.
Yeah, I
just
think
wanted
it
to
was
get
like
it out.
$5 a CD or something, and then we would, like, if kids didn't have money, we just gave them the CD.
Yeah,
We spent all our money on it. We just want people to listen to it and have fun with it. You know?
yeah, you know, we all
It's useless in boxes, right?
you all work jobs, you know, you just want to play music and have a good time, and you know, between that, high school, college going on, and you know, you look forward to the weekend. I gotta say, my favorite shows though were probably not a show in particular, but when we had the full band, like with the full horn section. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we had a lot of shows where maybe one guy couldn't make it or something like that, but when we were at our max with like all 4 players, and you know, my favorite memory was just always just the power of the horns. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it just would be a blast, you know, just listening to the guys and just giving it your all and having fun. And, you know, nothing better than music, man. It's a hell of, it's the greatest therapy in the world. And that's what I still say. And I still use it as my therapy, you know, and I sure as hell, I miss playing, you know, it's like just fucking amazing.
It sounds like you guys still kind of get together with different guys and play.
I do every now and then, not
Just
often. I
practice
gotta, just jam out some songs. I got some people that are some good friends with my wife that she kind of hooked me up with, that I kind of jam with, and you know, maybe once every 2 or 3 months we get together, and it's a good time. And yeah, Josh was saying he jams with some dudes.
For years, I had nothing going, and then like maybe right as my kid was being born 6 years ago, I hooked up with a guy I dirt bike ride with, and he's a drummer, and we kind of formed a little acoustic band, and we got a guitar player. So for the last couple of years, we've been doing that. We don't really play out much, but we practice at least like once a week, once every 2 weeks or something. What's funny though is I kind of got a little bit into like some bluegrass and bluesy music with it and stuff. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. We play a lot of '90s music, play a lot of bluegrass, play some, you know, some Sublime, and you know, a little bit of reggae and ska, just kind of everything, you know.
Yeah.
We just play songs we like. You know?
Yeah. You don't put any pressure behind it.
No, you know. So, and I found that I actually have like a great love for singing and playing bluegrass music, which I don't really listen to bluegrass much. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I certainly don't have CDs in the car, but love playing it for some reason. It's kind of like ska. It's a lot of fun. You know?
Yeah. I guess actually Tom Bigwig got into bluegrass. He has a bluegrass
Okay.
band in Tennessee.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, actually, it kind of makes sense because you guys were both very lead-heavy guitar players, and that's like what bluegrass is. You kind of break off and just start soloing and shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that. I really love the rhythm of it. It's the pick rhythm and the mutes, and it's just fun to play. You know, it's kind of out of the ordinary and not very normal, and it's just, that's what I always talk about ska, too. It was simplistic and fun and just enjoyable, you know. I wasn't playing it like I was like thinking about it the whole time. I was just feeling it and having the fun of it, you know.
Yeah. No, I dig that. What was your favorite ska band back then? Wasn't the Bosstones?
I mean, the early Boston stuff I loved. The later stuff I wasn't a huge fan of. But I liked I like those bands were harder, but I was really into a lot of the third wave ska too. Like I didn't play it so much, but I liked listening to it. I was always a big Scofflaws fan, and the Toasters, and you know, just a lot of the old, you know, Toots and stuff, and you know, just always kind of like would listen to a lot of that stuff and then play heavier music per se.
What about you, Steve?
For me, back when we were playing, I'd have to say it was probably ME330.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great band.
Memphis Scofflaws and all that, yeah.
That album, Chumps on Parade, is fucking insane. And Josh got me into that album, and I remember just falling in love with it just because Ted, their drummer, with, you know, his metal background too. I mean, and they're just phenomenal musicians, and their double bass and just the arrangements that they had, you know, because it wasn't just per se just ska. You know, there's so many mixed elements in it. You know, they had a little jazz influence to it. I mean, there was all kind of influences in it, and that's what I loved. You know, but yeah, from a ska band, I'd probably say them and Less Than Jake, because I would just literally learn every friggin' bass line that Roger would write just to push myself harder.
Yeah.
And for practice wise too, you know, just to kind of get my speed up and everything else. And I mean, his bass playing is just phenomenal on every record. It always was. And, you know, I kind of used them as a model to kind of get my chops up because, again, I wasn't really a bass player. I was more of a guitarist, but, you know, I always had that melodic sense of, you know, just trying to between tone and melody and all that stuff. And yeah, that was a big influence on me, those two bands as far as ska wise. But for me, I'm into everything. I mean, I always was. I mean, I was metal, punk, you know, you name it.
Yeah. What was your guys' favorite Right Turn Eddie song?
Favorite Right Turn Eddie song?
Me personally, I'd have to say my favorite one, and probably my favorite. Well, not to play live, but my favorite song is probably Up in the Air.
It is a really good song. It's still when I listen to it, I'm like, God, it's a pretty ripping song.
I think our two best recordings are definitely the 7-inch. So from a production standpoint too.
You know, and I like the 7-inch songs too. I just like what they sound like. Off of the CD, I'd say one of my favorite songs is I Wish You Were Cool, which is I Wish You Were as Cool as My Drummer. I love for some reason. I don't know. I felt like from a writing aspect, I really liked how we wrote it and how we went from distortion to clean back and forth. Like we were like those were some of the later songs, and we were kind of musically expanding a little bit and getting a little bit more complicated with it, and it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. You know,
there's a killer saxophone solo in that song.
Yeah, there is.
That plays at the end.
Yeah, and actually Pat Rapoli on the trombone does a section too. At the end afterwards, which is really nice. Yeah,
melody wise too. You know, that whole that song is.
Yeah, it was interesting because me, Steve, and Steve per se were the rhythm section in the band, right? Yeah. You know, normally as a guitar player, you're like the lead or whatever, but you know, compared to horns, you're just a guitar player. So that's not what people want to see. They want to see the horns, and we kind of watched these horn players grow from just a bunch of, dorky college horn kids, right? They all come and they're like, well, I have a horn and I'm in college and I can play the horn, but they've never played in a ska band before, so they're like, used to like, somebody with an orchestrator stick or something or a jazz band or whatever. So these guys, like, the first time you'd ask them to do a solo, they wouldn't know what the fuck to do, they would just be like, yeah, all right, I'll just play a couple notes, and then they would like really get into it, and they would really, and you could tell they were like practicing at home because they started writing some really mean solos, and at first I was always waiting for that, like, oh man, I thought they'd just be able to do that, like having these guys been playing that horn their whole life, just waiting for this, but no,
Yeah, you're like, dude, you fucking know theory, you can't put this shit together.
Yeah, and they would in the end.
Pete and Pat were phenomenal with that.
Pete and Pat, Pete was one of the most solid horn players we ever had.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we had a kid before him when it was called the Good Times Band, and it was called Ted Tetlow, who actually I think went off to be like pretty big in the bluegrass scene or country scene, and but he was a phenomenal trumpet player. But he was best at being a solo player, not really great at playing with a horn section. And I feel like when Pete came on, at first, some of the band guys, some of the members in the band, the older band, were kind of like, well, he's not as good as Ted. But I always felt like he was a little better because he was tighter. Like, where Ted was really good at doing a solo, when it came to playing with the other horn players, he was a little sloppy at times. Or like they would just, like, musically fight a little bit, to be the louder one, to be the one who's heard. And Pete and his brother and Pat and Matt together played like a team. Like a well-oiled team, and no one played louder. They would work it out together. Like they were like truly another section of our band that they came in and they were like, we already worked together, we already practiced together, we already yelled at Matt for playing too loud or too slow or too soft, and we told Pat to quiet down here, and and they just came in and they were like the hired guns. I mean, they were part of the band in every way sense, but like they also had their own thing going on, and it was cool to watch that because when they came in, I could tell they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They weren't like another guitar player, and he's like, "Yeah, we can do this. Let's start jamming." They kind of didn't know where to start. And man, towards the end, these guys were just all phenomenal players who, could have went on to whatever ska band and probably still be playing if they want to. I mean, Pat always had a way about him with his playing. He was just a jammy player. Pete was always one of the most solid players, and Matt on sax was great, and and Pat Rapoli on trombone was very solid on trombone.
Yeah, he was a powerhouse on it.
Yeah.
He was the one that we always had to say, hey, turn it,
Yeah, he would play a little too loud sometimes.
We never had a mic him.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
those things, like, the horn players would come up with those solutions for us. We'd be like, man, Pat's way too loud. They'd be like, you know what, Pat, why don't you do this, this, and this? And then he would do it. We'd be like, oh, that's perfect. So, like, they took it and ran with it. Like, they kind of made the band. If it wasn't for those guys, Ray Tornetti never would have been what it was. There's no doubt about that. We owe everything to those horns. Those guys I wish we could have gotten them up here for this interview. All 7 voices. You'd have fun with that.
It sounds like it'd be like just as difficult as getting them together to practice back in the day.
Yeah.
Especially now, since everyone's like got kids and all this responsibility and shit.
Oh yeah, I don't even know where half of them are. I think Pat lives down South Jersey. Pete lives in Central Jersey. I think Pete's a state trooper now. Yeah, he's a state trooper. And
Steve's out near Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I don't even know where Matt is. He kind of dropped off the earth.
Yeah, I don't know. when he left the band, and that was the last time I ever spoke to him or saw him. So, and that was probably 97, 8, something like that. So.
Yeah, wait, no, it had to be like 99 or 98. That's when you got.
I think it was 98 or 99.
Yeah. So okay, that's a good segue. Like, how did you guys actually? How'd the band end?
I know at the end it was down to me, Josh, Steve, our drummer, and Pete was our only.
Yeah, it was like a 4-piece, and we kind of just got to the point where we realized that we were like all getting older and it wasn't working anymore. Like like we had dropped out. Like the spark wasn't there, and I'll tell you what, the scene was really falling out from underneath us per se.
Yeah.
With the ska, that kind of ska music, and it was kind of like people were like, yeah, we're on something else, and like the emo started to come out and shit, and I remember the big thing was everybody tuning their guitar into some fancy whimsical tune to make it sound like they're playing some really complicated shit, even though they're not just playing anything but an open chord or something. Yeah. I remember there's a bunch of dudes like that, like they'd slick back their hair like they were like a 50s dude and like looked like the Social Distortion guy, bunch of tattoos, looking pretty, and some whimsical songs, but that was kind of taken over for a little while there. Wasn't a big fan of that music scene, as you can tell.
How do you really feel, Josh?
Yeah.
This is the time to let it out.
Oh, yeah. I'm a very honest person like that. Is what it is. Hey, listen, that's all good. There's a lot of people who thought ska music sucked. It's all good.
Yeah. Actually, ska is still it's still going like underground strong.
It's been around since the 50s, right? So it just keeps going through different iterations. I mean, it always has its place. Even in popular music, you hear it like make a little creak into somebody's song for a breakdown or something stupid. You know? You hear upbeat, and you're like, up there's ska.
Yeah,
there was some influence.
Yeah, I mean, Christ, I think that was like around the time too that No Doubt had come out, and like Sublime, and then it just became saturated, and when something
it really did. Everybody was the ska. Everybody was like, everybody get a ska band.
The Boss Tones, like they came out with that their big hit record, and I think that's like when it's too much in everyone's face, they just consume the fuck out of it, and they're like, okay, I'm.
Well, and music was changing too. I mean, you guys saw punk rock change, right? Punk rock definitely changed. Things got softer for a little while, a little more lovey-dovey, and then the harder stuff really split off the other way. I mean, music just changes.
I always felt too, though, like with us being a ska band, in a way, I never really consider us a full-blown ska band. I mean, you picked so goddamn fast.
Oh,
you
yeah.
listen to our stuff, the later stuff, the CD, it was, the speed to it between Steve's drumming, Josh's picking, my bass playing, everything else, it was more like a full-blown, I don't know, it was cool to, we were a ska band, but it had more of a rock influence to us, too, we never kept that, 4-chord structure or, the typical chord progressions, you know what I mean? We always kind of, mixed it up a little bit. I always kind of felt we always kind of pushed ourselves that way and didn't really kind of just go into that.
Well, I don't think we ever really
safe formula or
anything. Yeah, like we never were like it needs to like I would write something and then bring it to the band and kind of see where it went. Like I never really had. I was not like, no, Steve, don't play the drums like that. I'd like it like this. Bass should sound like. It was kind of like no, like here, like Steve's not a classical bass player. He's a guitar player who learned how to play bass. So he played a lot different than most bass players and wrote some insane bass lines because of it.
Yeah.
And Steve was a metal drummer who creating the edge in our band, and I always loved that. I mean, Steve would take songs places that when I wrote the song, I never thought it would sound like that. That's not what I, heard in my head, but I loved where it went. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like taking a drive, and you think you're going to be on top of this one view, and you end up somewhere else, and it's even better. You know, and that's where I always felt like our songs went, and that's why I kind of felt like we stood out from some of the other bands, because I didn't necessarily want it to, like, I feel like some of our earlier songs sounded a little bit more like the other bands that were around, and the popular bands. Like Mr. Punk Rock even sounds very much like a Real Big Fish song to me. And I was probably listening to a lot of Real Big Fish when I wrote the song. And, towards the end when we matured, I felt like we really kind of were just putting it out there and letting it morph, and that's why like things took a heavier tone and took a sharper tone in spots, and we definitely kind of let it really go wherever it wanted to. We'd even change songs in midstream. We would like be writing a song and we had a breakdown, somebody thought it should sound a little different, and we would change stuff. I mean,
Was there when you guys ended it, was it was like a phone call? Was it you guys all out in a room, or you were just kind of like, let's just practice next month? Like, how did it like end?
Actually, I do remember. That's when we were recording with Bob. When was that? In West Milford at his studio? Yeah. We were recording, and we had recorded Asshole in a Different Place with Chris, and then we decided to try out this guy for the hell of it, and we redid Asshole, and we had one or two other songs.
We were going to do a new song, Hometown, that we were
right.
kind of writing, and we were like in process of recording it while we were in the studio.
Yeah, and I remember we got in for maybe a day or two. We finished drums, and Josh and me had done our scratch tracks, and after that, I think we were having a hard time maybe getting Pete to come in because of his schedule with college at the time, to do his trumpet, and our plan was we were just going to double up, I think, or maybe we weren't even using horns that time.
I think we had horns in the beginning. I just kind of remember we all kind of maybe I'm wrong, dude. I remember we all kind of sat down and chatted about it or something.
We did,
or most of us did, per se.
Yeah, we did, and I remember then just with the studio, after that, we just never finished with him.
Yeah.
We only did maybe a day and a half with him, and then after that, then you and me stayed in touch, and we started jamming with Andy and Chris.
Yeah, we kind of were like, let's maybe finish up this recording and then we'll call it,
Yeah. Everyone was just so busy, I think Pete and Pat at the time were about to graduate, or they were still at Montclair.
And to be 100% honest with you, not to cut you off, sorry.
Oh, no.
I feel like a lot of the horn players especially, and some of those guys, I don't really think they were looking at it like they wanted to make it. This was like a really awesome time for them in college, per se. It was an awesome experience. I think at the end of the day, and I remember having a conversation, I think it was with Pete or something, and he was kind of like, well, I was kind of planning on leaving the band at the end of the year anyway, because, I'm going to be going on to a full-time job, and get at college. And, and for me, Steve and Steve, I think we were more like maybe we could make it, and we could be rock and roll band for a living. And, and it was just we were in different places. And I think, but at the same time, we were all pretty mature about it. Like, there was definitely no battle. There was never a fight. There was never like, fuck you, we're all blowing up. Like, there was never blow up. It was all like a very like, all right, guys, like, I guess this is kind of the end of it. It was fun. Like, it was kind of like that. Like, there was no hard feelings, I don't believe, or at least I didn't.
Actually, even if you think about it, the whole history of the band, I don't think there really was much. There was never really no major incidents or real major arguments or anything,
No, like even one time we kicked Pat Tamillo out of the band, but like Pete was in agreement. Pete was like, yeah, you got to kick him out, man. And I mean, I'll say at the time he was just like fucking around a lot. He wasn't showing up to practices. He was missing gigs and stuff. So like he was pissing the other horn players off. They were kind of like, kick him out. And then we brought him back into the band, but like, that was the thing. They were kind of like, I don't know. It was, we never fought like that. They never really, it was never like that.
Yeah, you guys didn't seem like you were a tumultuous band.
Yeah, definitely not a tumultuous band. We would have our occasional arguments, but nothing like crazy. And even when we ended it, it was very like, I feel like it was very diplomatic.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said DeVecchio played with you guys. It sounds, out of all the interviews I've done, his name has popped up so many times after all of our bands broke up. He's practiced with you guys. He was playing drums in Avery. There's a couple other interviews where he was just getting together with people trying to just kind of just it sounds like you're just keeping it going, but I think we all just realized that it was, the whole thing was kind of against us because what we were doing, it just was coming to an end. And this whole new wave of sound was coming in.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, you saw, these younger high school kids coming up with their group, and it's like we were the old men, getting thrown out at that point,
Yeah, you'd show up and they're like, who's this? Like, all right.
Yeah. And, how many shows can you do, in a weekend in the same, 50-mile radius, too? Like, if you weren't going to go branch out and actually, jump in a van and go and tour at that point after we've all been doing it for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're going to be in a wedding cover band or, whatever it may be, you got to get your ass out on that road at that point if that's what you really want to do,
And every time we really tried to go on the road, too, I felt like the majority of the band wasn't like, we had a lot of guys in college, and I feel like, like in general, like, not everybody was really ready to commit to that level.
I was still in high school. I mean,
but then when you were out of high school,
when I was out,
but even now, like, I remember we did approach it one time, and I even, like, we were going to go on tour with the NC-13s, I remember, and we were, like, midway through booking it, and I just remember, like, I remember one of the guys was like, I can't do it. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do it? You told me you could do it. And he was like, yeah, I didn't really think it was going to happen. And I remember that being like, that was when I kind of realized, like, all right, so the horn players, like, they're like, this is fun, this is good time. It's like they're not committed to this like that. Like, they were probably hoping it would get canceled, and then they wouldn't have to deal with saying they didn't want to do it. So it is what it is. I mean, hey, it's all good. But
yeah, it was a weird time too, because when all that stuff went away, it was just this void of, because it was a very exciting time. I mean, for me, when we were done in 2001 is when we broke up. I was like halfway through the year, and I moved to California. So I left New Jersey and came back in 2004. So I missed what was actually happening locally. And I was talking to Dave from Taxi Cab Samurais, and him and Pilak, this guy Mike Pilak used to do a lot of bomb shelter shows with Ricky. They tried to do some stuff to really keep it alive. Yeah, and it was just you were just fight. It was like you were just trying to like just swim upriver, and it was just like the force of the current was just pushing you back, and it just seems it was just a very just kind of stale time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree. And we kind of got out of it before you guys did.
Yeah.
I remember we had stopped playing shows, and kind of me and Steve were like working on doing some other stuff that was like not ska oriented, more rockin' and heavier, and yeah, I remember that. Like, I actually remember going to like a show or two where like Chris was playing, like Barker was playing, like I think like an acoustic guitar or something, doing some shows and stuff.
Yeah, at the fair.
And was that it? Yeah, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, so like there was some stuff like that, and it was like like music. Yeah, music was definitely after that scene. It went a little weird for a little while, and yeah, I don't know. I just remember kind of getting out of the whole like shows at like, and maybe it's also like you're getting a little older too, right? So you're like now you're in your like mid-20s, and you're like hanging out with a bunch of teenagers, at a show, and you're like, yeah, like Steve said before, right? You feel like the old man. You're like,
yeah, everyone's like, wait a minute.
The parking lot afterwards, and somebody's parents like, who the hell's that guy?
Yeah, and you're at the show. You're at the show at the end. You're like, all right, who's going to the bar? Wait a minute, you can.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, wait a minute, you could buy us beer? You're like, fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, I think at that time frame, I really just went and saw like bands I wanted to see, and I saw them at clubs at that point. Like I kind of like jumped out of the music scene. I was like, all right, like I've gotten a little old for that music scene. It's time to step back a little bit, and
To me, it felt like that. Once kind of like we were all done. Then, like you just had mentioned, like you had Bomb Shelter come in, and the next thing you know, you had these massive shows of out-of-state bands coming in and touring, and that's kind of like what replaced it, in a way, which was phenomenal for the whole scene and everything, and all the industry, like, Newfound Glory. Like, I remember going to see them play, I think, somewhere, and, when Gabe was doing Midtown and all that stuff, and, you still had a few little, a few local bands left, but it wasn't like it was like.
But the local bands
from
were like opening up.
Yeah,
they were like the openers, which the scene was no longer like the scene done by the kids and bands for the people and only for the people, right?
Yeah. It was more. Yeah, you had the bigger shows in that aspect. So
and hence why I like the older time, because I think that was a really cool time of music, because there was a lot of bands that necessarily never would have gotten to play a show, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
like not to rag on any of them. They were all awesome. They all went out there. Just to have the courage to get up in front of a group of people is enormous that most people would never understand.
Well, I mean, there were some bands though that were like they weren't great, but the fact that they would get on the show and they'd open, but then they got good.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like those bands, like when I was growing up, like you wouldn't even get that shot. You wouldn't even get a shot to be like partially terrible at a show, right?
Yeah.
Like you would only get an open mic night, and it would be in front of a bunch of people that weren't your fans, right?
Yeah.
They weren't even your crowd of people per se. So I mean, that was kind of a cool, amazing time in music that even happened, and that the kids really got to like kind of run it themselves, and the bands got to play and pick who they played with. Like you guys said, playing. I remember Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'd play every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes on Thursdays, and like it would be like some Saturdays or Sundays you'd like play like South Jersey. I remember playing like I'd play like with like Big Wig somewhere at South Jersey. I think the guitar got stolen at that gig. And then then we drive up to like another place and play at nighttime, like at another club. You have just enough time. You'd be like, no, I got to play like second at your show because then I got to drive like an hour and a half to another show and play like seventh. So I can't play fifth for your show. And you'd be like arguing with these people. You're just like, Jesus.
Yeah. But you also like had
but
that.
It was like,
you also like shook out all the cobwebs the first show. By the time you got to the second one, you felt like loose.
By the time Sunday rolled around, you were like, Aerosmith on stage, right?
Yeah.
You were like professionals at that point. You rolled up like juggling fire and shit, so it was totally different. Oh, yeah. And then and on top of it, we were practicing every Tuesday and Thursday. So we were like showing up to shows on Friday pretty much like juggling fire.
Yeah.
So like, that time was like, those were awesome, super awesome times, I'd say.
I remember when I joined the band, and again, I was like maybe 16 or so. And I was doing really shitty in school, right? My grades were horrendous at the time. And I remember telling my parents, I'm like, I got this opportunity to play in this band. They're like, well, how are you going to get there? You don't have a driver's license. I'm like, well, Josh, he's the singer in the band. He's got his license, and the other guys do. And I remember my mom saying, well, I want to meet this guy, right? So Josh came over, right? He comes to the house, and the first thing my mom says, so she goes, he could play in the band, but if his grades don't come up or if they get even worse, then he's done and he's out. And I remember him going, Mrs. Martin, don't worry. I'll make sure he keeps his grades up and everything's going to be good and fine and everything, and here, this and that. And, sure as shit, even with that schedule of us playing all the time, I was shot all the time in school. I mean, all the time. Between practices and recording, sometimes we'd be in the studio till like, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning with Chris, just because by the time he got home from school or work, whatever he was doing, he had late night recording sessions.
Yeah.
But, the music meant so much to me, and it was nothing more than I loved playing live. I made sure I got my shit together, you know what I mean?
That's amazing.
So, yeah, it was cool. It was a good time.
I can imagine just Josh being like super smooth Josh back in the day, super suave, like, don't worry.
He totally was with that big smile,
Yep.
And he's like, hi, Mrs. Martin.
Well, and then on top of it, back then, I was straight edge back then. I didn't drink or do drugs or anything. And so I even had that. I was like, listen, I don't do any drugs, don't drink. And we weren't that tight. Like we weren't a partying band.
Yeah.
Like the horn players, sometimes they get pretty wild. But we weren't like a partying band. And, I think that worked out because he was definitely a young kid coming in. I mean, if we were a rough band, we would have corrupted him in a second. But no, I think he lucked out. I remember Steve, the other Steve, Steve Weir's mom, because he was like, when he got into the band, he was like 17 or 18.
His parents
but I remember
were really
his
strict.
mom having that was what would happen with the band. The moms would come and talk to me and be like, yeah, you got to, I remember multiple times Steve's mom would come and be like, and it would be nothing like where he'd be like, yeah, he hasn't been really nice to his sister lately. You got to talk to him about that. And I'm all of a sudden, I'm responsible for him. Like, what are you talking about? I got to tell you to be nice to your sister? What's going on here?
She's like, he's giving me a lot of shit at home, Josh. You better take care of this.
Nice to me, I was his inside. I was like, what?
Yeah, Steve's parents were, we were definitely afraid of his dad. When we were growing up.
Bob Steve Weir?
Oh, God. Holy shit, dude. Bob Steve Weir.
Yep, I know.
Oh, man. One time we were at his house, because we knew Steve in high school. We went to Jefferson with him, and he was about a grade younger than us. And so me and Barker, we stayed over at Steve's house one time, and we were I think 15 or 16 or something like that. and it was before we had licenses. And Steve was like, "Yo, I stole some beer. We could drink it at my house." We're like, "Awesome!" So he had this like Genesee, whatever it is, cream ale, and it was sitting in his room. It was like he had 2 of them, I think. He had them, and they were sitting in his bedroom for like weeks or months. And we were opening and drinking this warm shit beer in his room, and knowing that his dad's like scary as fuck. So then we're sitting there drinking this, and Steve's just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is my first beer party."
Do you remember his Ford Fairmont, the white?
Oh fuck yeah! I talked about that recently. That's when he had that whole subwoofer that just would.
Yeah, so I was
shake.
just gonna say that, dude. He had like the huge power amp in the back with the subwoofer, and I'd yell at him too. I'm like, dude, you're a drummer. What the hell do you have this thing? And you shove this fucking, huge cannon bazooka tube thing in the back. I go, you can't even get your drums in it.
Holy shit! I forgot about that. He couldn't even fit this fucking thing.
No, he couldn't. He tried selling me that when I got my license too. It was such a scam too, because he had so many issues with it. And him and his dad were like, "Oh no, you should." I'm like, "No, thanks, dude."
I love Steve, but Steve definitely did some.
Oh, I know. I spent so much
back
time with him, and the majority of my time was with him in the band because I would always ride with him because I didn't have my license for like the first 6 months or so or whatever it was, and and he'd take me to parties in Jefferson all the time. He'd pick me up, and I had a blast with him.
Yeah, the actually just real quick, and we're coming up. We're about an hour and a half, so I'll let you guys off very shortly. Yeah. But one of the funny things too, just going back, he's probably, if he's ever hears this, he'd be like, "Stop talking about my dad." But his dad, so that same night of our beer party or party, whatever, he had these nunchucks. So he just polish off these warm piss beers, and I pick up these nunchucks and I start swinging them around, and I go where it goes back over my head, and it hits the. You know how the fans, like ceiling fans, have that light in the middle. So I hit the fucking thing, and it's like slow motion because it just rains glass down on me. And I look at Steve and Chris, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. And I hear from downstairs, "What was that?" And his dad comes upstairs, and his mom was super sweet to me, but his dad comes upstairs, and I think his mom came in first, and I'm like, "Please don't have him kill me." I was like,
"Don't send Bob down."
Yeah, I was like, "Please keep Bob outside." And then Bob came up and he like grabbed me. He's like, he put his arms around my neck. He's like, "You son of," and he was joking because he knew I was afraid of him. I was like, "Dude, I'm so fucking afraid of you. Please just let me go home." I was so scared.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I remember the first time I tried out for them was actually in Steve's basement because I think Steve had just joined them. And didn't he have like naked women posters everywhere because him and his dad would weightlift and look at them?
Oh yeah.
They were to the ceiling. They were like mechanic posters.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
I thought they were like.
Yeah.
I remember a couple times going over there. Not to continue this Steve's dad talk, but this is.
I can talk about Steve for hours.
So I remember going over there a couple times for practice, and his dad'd be like in a Speedo cleaning the pool in the back. I remember going over there and be like, no shirt on in a Speedo, and I'd be like, somebody get this man a shirt. Like, Jesus, like Speedo. Oh.
Two guys had to have seen that. I don't know, maybe not, but yeah.
I never saw that, man.
I'd be like, all right, see you later. I gotta go to bed, Brax.
They had the above ground pool, and he'd be out there in his Speedo with the skimmer, just skimming the pool. He didn't want to be. I guess he didn't want to be in the house like when we were playing. So.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, it was pretty crazy. We used to bust his balls.
Yeah, we'd be like, all right, that's after the horn players. We'd bust his balls. He'd be all red.
Oh, yeah, he hated it. He hated that, and oh my god, yeah. Holy shit.
If you're listening, Steve,
we still love you.
Yeah, we still love you, Steve. But
you're still a badass driver.
Yeah. We just have funny stories about you.
we can't remember a lot, but what we can remember is the Bob Weir. Okay, a couple more questions. Did you guys ever have any labels that were interested in you guys? Like that were like kind of courting you towards the end?
Not really towards the end at all, no. A couple times we were able to get our stuff put out. Like I feel like was the 7-inch put out by Red Iguana Records?
Yeah.
And we were doing that for a little while, but his label was kind of like starting to phase out per se. We were really, really, really bad at marketing ourselves and selling ourselves direct to companies. We pretty much did zero outside of going to shows and playing. And we just like never sold ourselves to record labels, really.
I remember sending out a bunch of cassette tapes after we had finish the full length, and I remember getting some good feedback from labels and stuff about, you know, like the first half of the record, and because I think we actually structured it where we put the newer songs in the front, we kept the older ones towards the back more, like Calendar Girl, Fortune, Juice, and I remember doing that, and I think I actually, you know, just basically kind of like sent mailers out of just cassettes, and, you know, just took basic, you know, looked at CDs that I had and looked at some indie labels and stuff and did that. And I think maybe one or two had written back and had said, hey, you know, it's cool and all this stuff, but we're more of a punk label or stuff like that and things like that. But yeah, we didn't.
That was the hard part too. We didn't really fit on any damn labels. Like in New York City, you have like Moon Ska Records, but like if you weren't a true ska band, you ain't getting on that.
Yeah.
And you know, there were like some local record labels, but like as far as like, I don't know. Towards the end, we didn't really sound like any other band, and I feel like that kind of
we kind of just didn't
it was
fit
weird
in a mold with a specific. You know, I felt musically we were kind of our own thing.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah. All right. So 2 more questions. One, is there something you want to talk about that I didn't mention, or we didn't mention?
Bob Weir Speedo.
No, we didn't mention that.
I'll just play that part again right after this.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can't even remember half of what we covered, to be honest with you.
That's fine.
You know what? The best part is just, you know, to even talk about this and just rehash it. And, you opening our memories, too, as well.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Mike. This is really cool stuff.
Yeah, man.
It's been awesome.
Absolutely.
And I've been, your podcast has been great because I travel so much for work. I've been downloading and listening to them on all my flights.
Oh, it's something, man.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been great, dude. You're doing an awesome job with it. So
thanks, man. Yeah, I love that. I love hearing that. I appreciate that. Not to cut you off. We can talk more about me if you want, but I'm just kidding. Okay, last thing, and it's usually we close the show with. What scene ethics do you guys still hold on to this day?
Scene ethics.
Like punk rock ethics, scene ethics, like something you learned back then as a young buck, and you held that was something that stuck with you back then, and you carried that through your life.
That's a really hard question, man.
that is tough. But
Yeah.
Some people have said like DIY, they hold on to that. Some people say just be nice to people because that's how they were treated. Some people say I still break. No, they don't say that.
I guess the ethics I took from that was just the overall awesome community. Like, you know, like that's like that was like really community building, and it really truly I used the word like there a lot, and I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Was, I don't know, it was almost like its own little autonomous government that just ran shows and had fun, and I'll take that from it. I mean, it was the coolest community that I was ever part of, to see all the same people at different shows all over the place, and the same bands, and I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
The community feel, that's what I'll take ethically. I don't know.
All right.
How's that? Does that sound good? It's probably some bullshit.
that sounds pretty good.
That sounds pretty good to me, man.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think for me, you know, and I don't know if it kind of makes sense, but, you know, I bust my ass when it comes to working and everything else. I always have, and I've always put like 100% into, you know, any music that I played. I played in bands after Right Turn Eddie. You know, I toured for a little bit, and, you know, and I learned so much from the scene, you know, and on how bands worked, you know, back in those days, you know, just, you know, everything, me being younger at the time, just the work ethic from Josh and the other boys, you know, the scheduling, you know, the way shows were ran, the way, you know, the schedules were ran for bands to go on and everything. I just learned so much over those years, and I really do apply all that stuff, like in my career now, too, in that way, in a sense. And I had always applied it to in other bands I had played, too. Unfortunately, those other people never agreed because they didn't grow up in that time era. So, but yeah, I would just say the sense of work ethic in that way, in a sense, you know, yeah. I've always kind of carried on. So, and to have fun, man, you know, it was just a blast. It always was a blast. You know, I look at it now, you know, now that I have kids, you know, Josh has kids, and, you know, I hope someday that they feel a sense of community like that at some point, you know, where
It'd be cool
you
if all
have
our little
somewhere to
kids are
go.
playing rock shows together.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, I get depressed about that now because you listen to the state of music now, and again, this is my personal opinion, but it just sucks, dude. To me, it's just all this electronic bullshit that any kid can make at home, and you know, it would just be great to be able to see my kids later on be able to go to a VFW hall and just listen to some rock bands and jam out and stuff like that at one day. And hopefully maybe that does make a comeback somehow.
You know, it's funny. That's a great point because a lot of people that I've talked to, I mean, we're all around the same age, and a lot of people have kids. Like a lot of people have kids, and they're all pretty much around the same age, the kids, like not too far. You know, and everyone, I'm sure not everyone lives in New Jersey, but there's some kind of, maybe it's not going to happen now, but maybe like then when they're in their teenage years and they listen to all these stories that they're, like you guys are telling them, that there's some little inkling of fire in them where they want to try to recreate that in some way in their local area, and they talk about it.
And it's cool too, you know, with like all the archives and everything, and like the page you're doing and everything else, like all the photos that are up. I got a bunch of stuff I think probably still at my parents' house. I'd have to see if I can try to find. I might have some old photos somewhere, you know, dig up. But it's great that there's a centralized area where you can go back and like, you know, not even reminisce for yourself or everyone else, or you know, send a link to someone that maybe you haven't talked to in years and shoot it off to them and say, hey, remember you were at that show with us or whatever. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's just cool, dude. You know, and it's a great archive with everything. You know, the way you guys all brought it back.
Yeah, and that community-minded feel continued on, right? Because that dude made that punk, you know, the punk, New Jersey punk archive or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, the continuation of the sharing of everything is happening, right? I didn't find out until a few years ago that the guy was even doing that, and somebody was like, hey man, your songs are up on YouTube. And I was like, what? And I was looking, I was like, holy crap, look at this. I was like, I had no idea all this stuff was up here. I thought this stuff was lost.
It's pretty new, actually. He didn't do it that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think he kind of put it out, I think it was last year. I remember when he launched it, I was telling everyone, I'm like, you don't understand how much time he must have put into setting this thing, because he launched it.
I can only imagine.
Oh my God, just downloading it, uploading it to YouTube, uploading it to SoundCloud, like finding images. It's a huge task.
Well, it's great because I was able to let my kid listen to a lot of my songs, older songs that I don't have that are not on the CD. You know?
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So that's cool, man, because you get to educate the new generation.